Welcome to all of you, and it's wonderful to have you all here. So just in case you're not familiar with the Speak Up National Research Project, for those of you that are new to this, I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction to what it's all about. It is an annual national research project where we poll K-12 students, parents, teachers, and administrators about their thoughts and ideas on the use of technology both in school and out of school. It's really all around digital learning today. We make the online surveys available to any K-12 school or district that would like to use them to collect their own stakeholder data, and we give back to every participating school and district, as well as many states, their own locally collected data, as well as the national data to use for benchmarks. And many of our districts that are here in the room with us today, I was talking with them earlier about how they're using the data to inform their plans, their programs, their policies, their professional development. And of course, we take that data and we share it here with decision makers and policymakers in Washington, D.C. as well. Since we started this project in 2003, we have received a little bit over 3 million online surveys from the students, the parents, and the educators. The types of questions on the Speak Up survey are what you would expect. They're about learning and teaching with technology predominantly. We ask different questions of different audiences. This past year, we asked students about science education, for example. We asked teachers about their professional development needs. We asked parents about internet safety. We asked all the respondents to talk to us about not only how they're using emerging technologies, such as social media, mobile devices, online learning, e-textbooks, games, but we also asked them about their value proposition around those different types of emerging technologies and what their vision would be for using them more effectively within school. And then we also ask all of the respondents, the students, the teachers, the parents, and the administrators, to talk to us about that ideal school, the ultimate 21st century school. What type of technology would be absolutely essential to drive student achievement? Now, the data that we're sharing with you today is from last fall. The Speak Up surveys were open from about the middle of October to the middle of December. We received a little bit over 466,000 online surveys from 8,000 schools and about 2,400 districts from all 50 states. You can see the breakdown there in terms of the students, the teachers, the parents, and the administrators. Now, of course, today we're focusing in on the students. So we had about 364,000 surveys that were submitted from K-12 students. Now, I always like to do a shout out to our honor roll of states. We had 10 honor roll states this year that had very high participation, and in many cases that participation was being driven by either their state superintendent or their state Department of Education. Now, we had 15 states that we put into our very special honor roll in terms of 15 districts that had high participation as well. And one of the things that's very interesting about this list of these 15 districts in terms of their high numbers of participation is that they span the entire scope of different types of schools and districts. There are rural districts in this list. There's urban districts. Our good friends from Baltimore City are in our top 15. There's also suburban districts. There's very small districts. There's very large districts. There's what we would say are more affluent or wealthier districts, and there's also districts that are in some very challenged communities. All of them have found a reason to participate in Speak Up and to use that data to inform their programs and plans. Now, as I mentioned before, on April 19th, we were here on the Hill, and we released our national report on the findings from educators and parents. We do have a few copies of those here with us today, as well as they are, of course, downloadable from our website. And then the most important part for all of us in the room today is that we are releasing to you our national report on the 2012 K-12 student findings. We're calling this report From Chalkboards to Tablets, the Emergence of the K-12 Digital Learner. Now, this was a very exciting year for us to do the Speak Up report because it actually was somewhat of a birthday for Speak Up. We started Speak Up 10 years ago to be able to collect and report on the authentic, unfiltered voices of students and to have those voices be part of the national conversation around education technology. So since that time, we've had a little bit over 2.5 million surveys submitted to us from students. Now, the thing that I think is so very, very interesting is that when we first polled the K-12 students in 2003, there was a great number of third graders that participated in our very first survey. Those third graders are just graduating from high school this year. So one interesting perspective, having gone from third grade to 12th grade, and that's what we're really calling this emergence of the digital learner. Now, I took a look back at some of the questions we asked in 2003, and as you're already chuckling, as you can imagine, we thought it might be kind of nice to ask the same questions, but then when we looked at them, we thought, well, these are just silly questions. Do you have an email account? Do you have an IM screen name? Do you own a CD burner? Really? Some of the questions that we asked in 2003 we could carry forward. So we have continued to ask students about how they want to use technology for learning, how they're using technology both in school and out of school, and what obstacles do they face using technology. So those were questions we could carry forward. So we really crafted the report around these three big ideas. The idea of what types of tools and resources are these digital learners using? What type of enabling technologies, shall we say? We also asked them about how they're using these technologies for learning. We call those empowering opportunities. And then we also commented on what are their expectations, those engaging aspirations that are so important. So as we go through our time together today, and I share with you some of this Speak Up snack, I'm going to hit on a little bit of the data in each one of these three buckets: enabling technologies, empowering opportunities, and engaging aspirations. Let me talk to you a little bit about this concept of internet access. We actually find that no matter what age student we're talking to, they all want more internet access at school. They want that access to be ubiquitous and for them to have the opportunity to have anytime, anywhere access to the internet. We'll talk more about that when we get into the data as well. And we also think it's really interesting about science being more interesting in an online class, and I brought some of that data to share with you as well. So at the high level, there's a couple things just to sort of lay a foundation here in terms of thinking about the Speak Up findings and really our findings over the last 10 years. We continue to see that in many ways today's students are functioning as a digital advance team for the rest of us. Think of them as the tech trendsetters or even the pace cars for the idea of using technology within learning. In many ways, today's students are more advanced than many of us, and maybe we feel that all the time when we're using technology. It sometimes comes down to this point. For many of us, we talk about adopting new technologies. For the students, it's about how they're adapting the technology to meet very specific needs in their learning lives. And I brought with me some great examples to show that to you as well. Now, the other thing that we have found is that, at least today, the students' frustration with using technology at school is not so much anymore about the quality or quantity of that technology, but how it's being used. The students often will talk to us in the focus groups that we do about their frustration, their pain point, maybe we'll call it disappointment, in how unsophisticated the use of technology is at their school. And then finally, the other point that we see coming very loud and clear, particularly from the students in our focus groups, is that the students are particularly interested in a very personalized learning environment. They want the in-school learning environment to be as personalized as their out-of-school experiences using the internet. All of this has, of course, led us to this idea of the emergence of the digital learner over the last 10 years. So let's start off with our Speak Up snack. I'm going to talk a little bit about enabling technologies, the tools and resources that our digital learners are using. And of course, we'll start off by talking about mobile devices. We've been actually polling students on their access to mobile devices since the very first survey, thus the question when we asked students about if they had a CD burner. So this year we asked the question a little bit differently. We asked the students if they had a range of different types of mobile devices, tablets, smartphones, laptops, netbooks, digital readers, MP3 players, game players. But we also asked them if it was their own personal device or if it was provided by their school. And if it was a personal device, could they use it at school? And if it was a school-provided device, could they take it home? So we really tried to cover the whole gamut here. So what I pulled out for you here is grade 3, grade 6, grade 9, and grade 12 students. So we see that increasingly students have access to smartphones. Look at that number for seniors in high school this past year. 82% told us that they have a personal smartphone. We also saw a large increase year over year in students having personal access to tablets. So for example, our middle school students in 2011, 26% of them told us they had a personal tablet. In 2012, for the whole middle schools, grades 6, 7, and 8, 52% of them told us they then had a tablet, a pure doubling in just 1 year. Now, we also were interested in the numbers coming from the students about school-provided devices. So we polled on that type of qualifier as well. And so you can see increasingly we're seeing that schools are providing tablets. Some are still providing tablets and laptops as well. Now, this idea of can I use my own devices at school, very popular now to talk about bring your own device to school or bring your own technology to school. And yet when we actually ask the students if they could use their own devices at school, the numbers are still small. So out of the students that told us they had a tablet, only 9% said that they could bring that to school and use it at school. And amongst high school seniors that told us they had a laptop, only 12% of them said that it was allowed that they could bring their laptop to school. Now, increasingly, internet access is being facilitated through those mobile devices. So as you can see here, 2/3 of high school students and a majority of middle school students told us that their primary internet access is through a 3G or 4G mobile device. We thought that was particularly interesting when we take a page back from 2003 and think about the digital divide. So we took a look at the students that told us they still did not have home internet access. And in fact, we were amazed to see that in 2003, 6% of our students told us that they did not have internet access at home. And in fact, in 2012, it still is 6%. That number has not budged one iota over the past 10 years. More interesting, though, than that is the fact that a majority of those students, at least in high school, are finding internet access through a mobile device. So they may not have home internet access, but they're getting online somehow, most oftenly through that mobile device. Now, social media is a fabulous conversation to have with the students, and I'm going to be asking some of our panelists about social media. A couple interesting things that we learned this year about how students are using social media to connect, collaborate, and create with others in an online environment. Students are obviously very fond of texting. We saw a large increase in texting from 2008 to 2012. We also see that students are increasingly becoming Twitter users. 3 out of 10 students in middle school and high school told us that they're using Twitter to follow others or to communicate. And of course, there's this whole idea of the creation of videos and the posting of videos on YouTube. And a large increase, particularly amongst middle school students, seem to have a real passion for creating videos and posting them online. In terms of playing with other students, so in the massively multiplayer online game environment, that appears to be more of a middle school thing than a high school student thing, and we're watching that as a trend as well. And then this is an interesting trend that we've actually been watching over the last couple of years, though we have not reported on it before. And it's this idea around students' decrease in using Facebook as a tool. So we do still see a majority of high school students that say they're regularly maintaining a Facebook page, but to be honest with you, it has been on a pretty steady decline since 2007. If we actually look at that number, it's about a 21% decline from the high point that we noted in 2007. Now, as another indicator of students' online activities, we asked students this year about how many online accounts they had, how many different online accounts they had where they had to register, and put in a username and a password and put in some sort of information. So this was sort of an interesting corollary to the question we asked in 2003, which was how many email accounts do you have? So times have changed. So we see that the majority of students tell us that they are registered on 1 to 5 different online accounts. We think it's particularly interesting that 12% of middle school students and 12% of high school students have 20 plus accounts. Now, I don't know about all of you, but I think I want to get some advice from these students in terms of how they're keeping track of all those passwords and usernames. And the mail, absolutely right. Let's talk a little bit about how the students are using these tools for learning. And they basically fall into 2 camps. One is about teacher-directed use of technology in the classroom, and then the other one, which I actually think is a little bit more interesting, is about how students are self-directing their learning outside of school, outside of class, using technology. So in class, we see that students are using technology to access information on a school portal. They're looking up grades, they're looking up assignments. They're creating a lot of multimedia presentations as part of homework or projects, taking online tests, and increasingly students have access to online textbooks. Now, in the arena of student-directed use of technology for learning, there's a couple things that are really interesting here. And again, I broke it down by grades 6, 9, and 12. I'm particularly fascinated by how the students, again, are adapting technology to meet specific needs. So we actually, despite the decrease in Facebook usage, we actually have seen a steady increase in students telling us they're using Facebook as a student project collaboration site. Now, I don't think that's ever what Zuckerberg decided or thought that was going to be the use of his invention, but it is being used by students in that way. I also think it's really interesting. Look at that number. About a third of high school students told us that they're taking photos of assignments using their phones or tablets rather than writing them down in an assignment book. Sort of another interesting adaptation. And then the idea of going out to YouTube or other sites, maybe Khan Academy type sites, to find online videos to help with homework. When I open that sort of question up in my focus groups, it's amazing the resourcefulness that students have, all self-directed, to find information online to be able to help them with their homework and their assignments. Now, of course, there still are obstacles, barriers, challenges. We again took a look at it from 2003 to 2012, and we actually make this point in the report that we think this is a pretty significant finding. In 2003, the students told us the chief obstacles to using technology in school were these. The internet was too slow. Filters and firewalls block sites that they wanted to get to. There weren't enough computers. The computers were old. The software was old. So they were pretty frustrated and disappointed with the technology that was being served up to them in the school. Now in 2012, those obstacles are slightly different. The filters and firewalls are still there, but the rest of it is really about access to my personal tools. I can't access my social media. I can't use my mobile device. There's too many rules against all of my own social media and mobile devices, and I can't even text my classmates or my teachers. So a big shift from the access to school tools to the access to personal tools. Now, we also, in our focus groups over the last couple of years, have been talking to students about how often, or not, their teachers are assigning internet-based homework for them to do. And I've done similar focus group work with teachers as well. Now, the students tell us that this is a point of frustration for them. They will say quite often to me, why is it that my teachers won't assign more internet-based homework? And I talk to the teachers about it, and the teachers will tell me, very rightfully so, they're concerned about the students that don't have out-of-school access. They're concerned about those students that either don't have access at home or access at a library or just don't have access. And so they don't want to put certain students at a disadvantage compared to other students. So they hold back on the internet-based assignments or projects. So it had all been anecdotal for us. And so as good researchers, we wanted to get to a little bit more of the quantitative part of this. So we asked teachers this year, how often do you assign internet-based homework? 41% of the teachers nationwide told us never. 26%, as you can see, said a few times a year. If we look at this level of weekly, so kind of on a weekly basis, about 14% of teachers nationwide told us that they're assigning some type of internet-based homework. When we disaggregate this a little bit and we look at elementary teachers versus middle school and high school teachers, we see high school teachers a little bit more. It goes up to about 18% on a weekly basis, a little bit more. So now we'll ask the students the flip side of this, and this is what we did. We asked the students, how often are you going out to the internet to help yourself with homework? Not assigned by the teacher, just going out to the internet to look for resources, to use it as a study tool, to use it as a homework helper. And now we see a pretty dramatic change there in terms of that. So here we see that about 2/3 of high school students and a majority of middle school students tell us that that's a weekly activity for them. And look at that daily or almost daily number in terms of their access. So while the teachers may be thinking that these students don't have access, in fact, more students may have access than they're thinking about. And as I mentioned before, that might be through those mobile devices. So let's talk a little bit about the students' expectations for digital learning, and then we're going to call up our experts to comment on some of this. Now, one of the things that was very interesting to look in the data this year when we asked the students about all the different devices that they had was that in many cases, students had more than one device. Now, for many of us in education, we've been talking for quite a few years about finding that one perfect mobile device to put in the hands of students. Is it a laptop? Is it a smartphone? Is it a tablet computer? What type of tablet computer? And there's been a lot of conversation here in Washington, D.C., as well as many national conferences and maybe in schools and districts as well, as to how do I find that perfect device for the one-to-one environment. Now, what we actually are finding from the students is that they are carrying multiple devices in their backpack and that they want to use different devices for different tasks. So we gave the students a list of about 20 different academic tasks and said, choose for us what device you think would be the perfect device to be able to help you accomplish this particular task. And so we do see a mixture, a very rich mixture of devices and tasks. So create a presentation, laptop, a clear winner here for the students. Communicate with classmates, though, the smartphone is really the preferred device for that type of communication. Take notes in class. Now, this is interesting. It's a dead heat between a laptop and a tablet. I think we're going to see tablet maybe win that one out, but we'll see how that goes. And then read a book or an article, another dead heat between the tablet and the digital reader. So in many ways, these digitally advanced students, these digital learners, that advanced team, as I talked about before, has already outpaced many of us because they have evolved to the point of differentiating their device usage based on the task, not looking at the idea of, well, this is my one device and I'm going to use it for everything. So very interesting development, we thought. Now, we also asked the students about their interest in online learning. And again, we've been asking this question over several years as well. And we started to see a shift this past year. For many students, it's still about taking the online class, taking a class online that's not offered at their school, or maybe doesn't fit into their schedule, or maybe they want to get college credit or AP credit. There's a lot of that interest out there, particularly amongst high school students. But we were also very impressed to see the change just in the last 3 years in terms of students thinking about the personalization of their learning environment and how online helps to support that. So the idea of having students in control of their own learning, working at their own pace, having that greater sense of independence is something that, as you can see, resonates very strongly with today's digital learners. And then, as I mentioned, every year we ask a different curricular question on the surveys. This past year it was about science. The year before it was about math. Actually, next fall it's going to be about reading and writing and literacy. So we asked the students to envision for us their ideal science class, and here we see it all coming together. All of the different mobile devices, online tools, social media, the access to the internet, the digital content, we see it all coming into play when the students are asked to envision their ideal in particular, science class. So they want to collaborate with their classmates. They want to endorse that idea of socially based learning where they can learn from each other and collaborate. They want to use digital content like animations and visualization and simulations. They want to use virtual or augmented reality. They also want to take an online class. They want to use their mobile device. And in fact, look at this number, and these are high school students. A little bit over a quarter of them want to text their teacher during class and get an immediate answer. So our final bit of data here for you before I bring my panel up is that idea of imagining the ultimate school, the ideal school for today's learners. And as I said, we ask all of the respondents, the students, the teachers, the parents, and the administrators. So if you were in charge and you could design that ultimate school for 21st century learners, what type of technology do you think should be absolutely in that school? And this is actually a very interesting question for policymakers. It's a very interesting question for superintendents and school boards, because having the views of all of your different stakeholders, either at the national level, the state level, or at a school or district level, gives you the opportunity to compare and contrast their relative rankings of importance on these different types of technology. So let me show you how that plays out. What I did is I took data from principals, teachers, parents, and students for our presentation today, and then a couple different technologies. So without even looking too far at the numbers, let's take a look at tablets. We can see how all 4 bars there, the vision of principals, teachers, parents, and students, is pretty closely aligned. Those bars are nicely aligned with one another. That would give me, if I was a policymaker or a superintendent, it would give me nice solace that it seems like everyone is on the same page. There is the relatively comparable ranking on the importance of using tablets within instruction. But let's take a look at something else that's maybe a little bit different. Let's take a look at games, for example. The students are very interested in games within their learning environment. They love that idea. And look at this, teachers are increasingly becoming interested in games as well. Principals are getting on board, but it appears that our parents are not as interested in games within an education environment. Well, let me give you the synopsis of that. Basically, when you talk to parents about games and you try and equate games with education, what goes through a parent's mind is Worlds of Warcraft. And they can't see how that has a place in 3rd grade math or 6th grade science or 9th grade history. They don't get it. So this idea of if a school or a district or a state was interested in making a big investment, for example, in some very interesting and very innovative and interactive game technology that's out there, you might want to cover that base with the parents because they may be coming at it from a different perspective. So as you can see, in many cases here, we have at a national level some nice alignment on some of these technologies. In other areas, we may need to do a little bit more development work to either bring our teachers along, bring our parents along, or bring our principals along. In most cases, as you can see, it's our students that are out in front in terms of thinking about the use of these type of technology tools. So as I said, the report is basically broken down into these 3 chapters, shall we say. We talk about the types of tools and resources that digital learners are using. We talk about how they are being empowered to use these tools, both in school and out of school, and then we also talk about their aspirations and expectations. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to call up our panelists that are identified to come up. It does not look like Congressman Miller is here yet, so we're going to get started with our panel discussion. So for the students that we've identified with tent cards up here, if you would come up and take your place, go around that side of the table and come and take a place, okay? So in the meantime, what I think we're going to do is that we're going to have each one of our students introduce themselves. I'd like to have them tell you their name, their grade, and what the name of their school is, okay? And so we're going to start right here with Anna. I think we need to turn these on. So if everybody can push your button. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm in 3rd grade, and I go to St. Francis International School.
Hello, my name is Cole. I'm in 3rd grade and I go to St. Francis International School.
My name is Kirk and I'm in 5th grade and I go to Liberty Elementary School.
My name is Amy. I'm in 6th grade and I go to St. Francis International School. My name is Virginia Schilder. I'm in 9th grade and I go to Bishop O'Connell High School.
Hi, my name is Elena Bowman. I'm in 9th grade and I go to Digital Harbor High School.
Hello, my name is Elvin Sordo. I go to Central Travis Public Charter School.
My name is Madison Edmonds. I'm in 11th grade and I go to Sharando High School.
Well, thank you very much, students. So, Congressman, we just introduced the students for the panel. So what we're going to do now is the students, you're just going to stay up here. I'm going to introduce the congressman. He's going to talk to us for a little bit, and then he and I are going to co-facilitate a conversation with all of you, okay? So it is my pleasure to introduce us now to Representative George Miller, the senior Democratic member of the House Education and Workforce Committee and a leading advocate for a long time in Congress on education technology. George has served on the Education and Workforce Committee since first coming to Congress in 1975 and was its chairman from 2007 through 2010. He now represents the newly created 11th District of California, where Project Tomorrow is based in California, home state, in the East Bay of San Francisco. Earlier this year, the congressman introduced H.R. 521, the Transforming Education Through Technology Act. This bill recognizes the importance of technology to ensuring that all of our K-12 students are college and career ready upon graduation from high school. The bill would focus federal education technology funding efforts on two key components that are absolutely vital for technology program implementation and online assessment preparation. We've talked about a lot of these already today. Technology professional development for educators and classroom technology infrastructure, including hardware, software, and connectivity. In a tribute to his leadership, the bill has already been endorsed by most major K-12 education organizations and co-sponsored by a number of Mr. Miller's congressional colleagues. We are so thrilled to have you here with us today, Congressman. Thank you very much.
Well, Julie, thank you very much, and thank you all for being here, and thank you for Project Tomorrow that sort of keeps us connected to what's going on in our elementary schools across this country and the attitudes of students and the habits of students and the use of technology. The legislation that I introduced is really designed to fill in the gaps for those schools that don't have the best of broadband, for those students that don't have access to devices. We want to fill in those gaps, and then we want to fill in the gaps in terms of professional development, how to best use the technology to broaden the opportunities of education for every one of these students sitting here and every student across our country. And I'm a big believer that the technology is the way to solve a number of the problems. I think with what we now know about the use of technology in education, what we're continuing to learn about the use of technology in education, that we really have, at this moment, the most dynamic environment conceivable, certainly in my history involved in public policy, but I think for all of us here today, the opportunities to change the learning environment on behalf of students, to change the teaching environment on behalf of teachers, and then to combine that for the total learning environment of both teachers and students. Because what we obviously see is very often it's a two-way street if you get into the real dynamics of students participating and creating their own content about what they're learning, about what they're exploring, about what they're discovering. And technology lets us broaden all of those. They're no longer bound to a textbook. They're no longer bound to the choices made in that textbook. And they will no longer be bound to the quality of education based upon their zip code. I want to make sure that they're no longer bound to the denial of access to the technology based upon their zip code. So we also get to carry out the #1 charter of the federal involvement in education, and that is to make sure that an equity of opportunity is provided across this nation for all students. Not where you live, not the color of your skin, not where you were born, not whether you're an immigrant or not, but are you availed the opportunity to participate in the best that education has to offer, and with the best teachers, the best curriculum, the best access to information. And the fact of the matter is that we think that that's possible with this legislation, with the commitment that many districts are already making without federal help. But that's not possible in every district. It's not possible in every school. And that's the role the federal government plays, is to try to equalize this out so that everybody here, no matter what district they're from, no matter what state they're from, what city they live in, has that opportunity. And then we think what we really do is we take this old industrial model of education in America that was designed around early manufacturing and around agriculture, around the need to have young people go out and work in the fields and harvest the crops. You guys ready to bring in the hay and the barley and the corn? We think we can't start school until the fall because we need to bring in all those crops before the winter time. And we got to get you out there early in April, maybe, so you can plant some of those crops. How many of you have been planting corn and wheat?
I don't think you have anything.
You haven't been planting any corn or wheat?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Well, then what are we doing with this system that says we need to take the summer off? You like those summers off, though, don't you? Yeah, see? Maybe you're more effective at lobbying than I think so. Maybe it's a well, anyway, this is an old and tired model. And the idea that education or your opportunity education is going to be tied to that school that you're going to go to, however you make that choice, or to that district, or to that particular teacher, is an outmoded one, because the resources available today are so much richer to enhance, again, as I think this is a two-part equation. It's a learning environment and it's a teaching environment. And I just think that we have a long ways to go in accessing and optimizing the opportunity for students in our schools. And we move it from a place, if you will, kind of sounds sterile, but to a process, where in fact you're not going to be limited by the size of your school, the walls. You've all heard this debate. Well, in fact, we get to do that, and very often these students are already doing it in their personal lives, outside of school. They're doing it with their family and friends across the country, or across the street, across the neighborhood, and they get to tie into one another. We also think that this changes the dynamics of learning, and I think it changes the dynamics of learning in terms of their future lives and in terms of the future workplace, where people are really looking for a workforce. If you look at certainly when you think of California and you think of the businesses in my area, and certainly the new businesses in Silicon Valley and throughout the state and much of the country, people now assemble a workforce of people who can come together and assemble solutions to problems. It isn't the right answer. It's the question of, can you take a solution to a complex problem? Can you assemble that by the interaction of people with different talents, different skills, and can you come up with a solution that works for your company or for whatever purposes? And that's the new dynamics, is that you're not limited to a sort of a one-on-one model, which then reduces you to checking the multiple choice exam, yes or no, right, 1 out of 4 chances of getting it right or wrong, what have you. And so that's the dynamic that changes with technology. And it's important because, again, as we look at some of these models, we see that the answers are interesting. But really the dynamic is John Seeley Brown, who does a lot of work in media and colleges, MIT and USC and Stanford and others, is what you're really looking for is answers that didn't drive additional questions, more complex questions about that problem. So you could go, like when I went to school, and the question was, when was the Civil War? That's interesting, but it didn't tell you anything about the Civil War. If you ask why the Civil War, that discussion would drive additional questions, I assume, by the participants of that discussion. And that's what you want to do in education as you think about acquiring knowledge, acquiring a concept, a sense of what is taking place. And so to me, that's really the advantage of technology today. And we're less, we worried so much at the beginning, and it's still a concern, this question of whether you had access to the internet or not, and whether you had access to broadband. That's what I want to fill in the gaps. Well, we also know that all these students probably, in one way or another, are using a device. And we used to tell them to shut off all those devices when they came to school. Now we're saying turn them on. I was just in San Diego visiting a school where it's all based upon bring your own device. And the interesting thing in this class was it was a literature class. So they'd read some stories, and now they were doing what they called, I love it, constructive, kind criticism. And so across this classroom, randomly paired up, students were criticizing one another's understanding of the book or suggesting that maybe they should have looked at this or back and forth. And almost to a person, there were two saying, hey, dude, it's not working for me. But almost to a person, they said they found it helpful. They found that the criticism they were receiving, the questions they were asking of the person they were paired up with, and the answers they got back, this was all helpful to a deeper understanding of the work that they were reading. So I think that's the excitement the possibility of dramatically changing a very siloed, restricted notion of education. So that's what's in store for all of you. It's going to be exciting. How many of you play games? How many of you play games a lot? So if we had younger kids here, it'd be even worse than that. I mean, not
It's the
worse,
younger
better.
kids.
Better than this. Well, you know, how you like to score in games? Do you like to get a high score?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, we're starting to think that if we put a clock and a scoreboard on all of the academic studies that you guys are doing until you got it right. Because it's persistence, the desire to perform better that we see driven now, and we want to think, how do we get that persistence in learning, as opposed to turning them off with one wrong answer? My grandson says to me when I'm playing the Star Wars games with him, at some point he says to me, Papa, could you just drop out? I'll go ahead. I said, well, help me get over this wall. I said, Papa, we don't have time. We got to go. We got to go. We got to go. That persistence in the acquisition of skills and knowledge is what we're looking for. So there's all these cross currents going on. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to listen to some questions from students.
Wonderful. You can sit
Where are you
right
gonna
there.
sit?
I'm going to stand.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're going to run the show.
I'm going to run the show. But well, I thought
Thank
you had
you.
some questions also, though, Congressman.
Well, I do.
For the
Well,
students.
but
I'll
I
start. I'll
spoke
start,
wrong.
and then you can jump
Yeah.
in.
Yes.
Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to find out from these students, and as you may have missed this when you came in, but we've got students that are here from parochial schools and public schools in Arlington, from Arlington, Baltimore, Frederick County, Silver Spring, and right here from the district. So it's wonderful to have them all here. I want to find out from the students, so how are you using technology right now in your school? Who can give me an example of how they're using some type of technology to help them with learning? Okay, Kirk.
Well, sometimes in the morning, we use our iPads to do reading.
Okay, you do reading with your iPads?
Yes.
Okay. What type of reading are you doing with the iPad?
Like, we have levels, and I read on the level W.
Okay, good. That's great. He's right, Ms. Walker? He's absolutely right. Some other examples? Elena?
We use Blackboard on our computers, which is actually a great system because we can like see our assignments anytime we want. And it'd be a lot easier if we had it with us on like a phone or like something that's mobile that we can have anytime we want. And we can see like what assignments we're missing and stuff like that. It'd just be a lot easier if we
So
had.
you're not currently accessing Blackboard on a mobile device?
Oh no, we are.
You are?
Not
yes,
on a mobile
okay.
device, but on a computer.
On your computer. Okay, that sounds great. So it's keeping you organized.
Yeah, very organized.
Okay. Someone else? Yes, go ahead.
We use our devices primarily for enrichment and a supplement to the lesson plans, usually to look up additional information in biology or world history class to kind of dig a little deeper. With the device.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, Madison.
In our business classes, we do a lot of creating presentations through PowerPoint, and sometimes we upload videos for like marketing stuff onto YouTube, and we use softwares like Prezi and stuff to create.
Oh, creating Prezi presentations. Very nice. Okay. Anyone else want to share what you're doing? Go ahead. Okay. Presentations and projects. Okay. Thank you, Amy. Anybody else before we move on? Okay, so the congressman already started this question because he asked you about if you like to play games. I want to know what else you like to do with technology outside of school. So beside games, what else do you do with technology outside of school? Go ahead, Elena.
I get on social networking sites.
Okay, so what social networking sites are you involved with?
Facebook, Instagram. Yeah. I don't have a Twitter, but
Okay. Anybody else? Go ahead, Kirk.
Well, sometimes I just listen to music or get on social network.
Okay, so you're on a social network, Kirk?
Yes.
What social network are you on, Kirk?
Well, I got Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
As a reminder, Kirk is in 5th grade. Those of us that haven't gotten into Instagram yet, we got to step up. Okay. Other students? What type of games, Cole and Anna, do you play? Go ahead, Cole.
I play Club Penguin.
Club Penguin, okay.
I also play Dogfight 2 and y8.com.
Okay. All right. Anna, what do you play?
I go on my iPad and play Minecraft or Grail Online Error, and sometimes I go on Y8 and Pop Tropica.
Oh, okay. All right. Those are all good games. Anybody else doing any sort of social networking? Maybe some of the older students. Are you on Facebook?
Yeah, we use Facebook, and a lot of times we use it for collaboration or for homework help.
Oh, so when I was talking about that resonated with you about what we're hearing from students. Can you give me an example of how you've used it as a collaboration site to help with a project or with class?
For instance, last year in our geometry class, we created a geometry group on Facebook, and all our classmates were a member of that group. And if we had questions on homework, someone could post their question, and people would provide help.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Anybody on Twitter? Beside Kirk, we know he is. Anybody else on Twitter? How are you using Twitter, Madison?
I follow a lot of my friends as well as sports analysts and some political figures. Like I follow Barack Obama and like other accounts like that, like news. I follow ABC and NBC and stuff like that.
Okay. Anybody else in terms of Twitter? Elvin, are you on Twitter?
No.
No? Okay. Do any of you think that Twitter could be like a learning tool? Can you use Twitter as a learning tool? Elena, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that Twitter could definitely help us. Like, first off, it engages more students, and I mean, it's a lot easier for like some people who don't have like texting. They could use Twitter. They could go on like another. I mean, if you had a personal like iPad, and you could easily get on Twitter, and some people don't have that, so it'd be like really easy, and like you could like follow your teacher. Your teacher could make their own page, and then like they can like post assignments and stuff.
I do hear some teachers are doing that. They're actually using Twitter to post assignments and to give updates on homework or move a test date or that type of thing, and students are following their teachers. Yeah, Kirk?
Well, sometimes when we in class, sometimes we use Edmodo, and our
Okay.
teacher, she usually posts like assignments for us to do.
Right, and Edmodo is like a social networking site. It's a kid-protected social networking site, which is good. Congressman, I have tons of questions for them, but if you have something, jump in.
For those of you, the older students who may be using this for collaboration in terms of your assignments or projects, I just wonder how you think it enriches your experience as opposed to you going out and doing this on your own and then putting together that response for an assignment.
I'd say it's definitely a lot faster to use technology, especially with things like Google Drive, where you can share your documents with other students who can then edit it in real time, and you can see them making editing, as opposed to having to print out waste paper, hand it to them, you get it back a week later, and then go back in and type it. It saves a lot of time.
But do you think you're learning in that process in the sense that one of your collaborators may have a different take on the issue or a different answer to the question?
Yeah.
You take that away, or do you then respond back saying, I think you're wrong, or I think you're right, or what about this?
There's definitely a back and forth there that's an added bonus to using the technology.
How does that compare to what's available, let's say, in the classroom?
In the classroom, it's kind of, there's 20-some students, and the teacher kind of wants to do their own thing, so you can't have that one-on-one back and forth that's available to you using technology.
I know you're not saying adults get in the way, but that's... When you play the games, when you play, who's playing Minecraft? The ocean keeps coming into my sight. I don't know. I can't got it down yet. So do you see any connection between that game and your schoolwork, or how you learn, or how you develop ideas?
The only thing that is like that is you have to think about how you make things.
So you have to get your ideas together on how you're gonna build this site, right? Yeah, that's a important part of that process. Yeah, yes.
I play Minecraft as well, and I think it's actually really good for your brain because it challenges your brain because you can like make anything you want, and it's basically like you're challenging.
Don't make it sound
creative
so
skills.
simple, Elaine. I'm having trouble. No,
It can get very complex though.
thank you for saying that. I feel much better now. Again, for the older students where you have it, maybe the options of multiple devices, you suggested that this activity wasn't, you couldn't use it across your phone or you use it on an iPad or you use it on a school computer or a home computer. So what do you think about being able to do all of this on your own device as the phones get smarter and smarter and easier to use?
I definitely like being able to use my own device because you're familiar with that piece of technology, so you're more efficient using it and it saves you a lot of time, as opposed to using a school-provided device that you're not as familiar with. Or
Is it an either or at your school? When you're in school, you use that provided device?
Teachers prefer us to use the school-provided computers, which are usually a lot slower than our own.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to take a poll here and see what type of devices these students have. How many students here have a cell phone? Just a regular cell phone, okay? How about a smartphone that has internet access? Okay. Anybody here have their own tablet? An iPad? Okay. All right. I guess so. I think we're seeing a generational divide right here. How about your own laptop that you can use? Well, that's why Kirk's on Twitter and everything. He's got tons of devices. He's a multi-mobilist is what I call them. So some of you have different types of devices. What type of devices do they have at school that they let you use? Madison, you said their school provide computers. Are those in a computer lab or a laptop cart, or what is it?
Both, actually. We have the computer labs, and then also I think each department gets a laptop cart.
Okay. What else do we have at the different schools? Elena? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Not Elena. Amy? Smartphones? Smartboards. Oh, smartboards. Interactive whiteboards. Okay. Kirk?
Well, sometimes some schools have iPads, and at my cousin's school they actually use smartphones.
Oh, they use smartphones at your cousin's school. And those are provided by the school? Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Yes, Virginia?
We have iPads for, I guess, there's several sets of iPads for our school, but I was actually not able, I don't think they're very accessible, and I'm not sure that the teachers always know how to integrate them into their lessons because I actually never got the experience to work with them this year. So.
Okay.
My cousins who live in Arkansas, they actually have their own iPad and iPod that they can only use for school purposes, but they can take it home. And I think it's very helpful because they seem to do a lot better at school since they got it. And they're more
That's interesting.
engaged.
So it's provided by their school, but they can take it home.
Yeah, they can take it home.
That's great. That's wonderful. So yes, Elvin.
For my school, we have 3 laptop carts and a computer lab, but we also have Tiger Woods Learning Center like close to us, so we can use that too.
And they have technology in the Tiger Woods Learning Center
Yes.
for you to use. Okay, well, that's great. So you have that option as well. Now, a couple of you brought up here, and I hope I'm not going to get too controversial here, but you've brought up a little bit about either your school technology or how your teachers are using that technology. What I'd like to know from all of you is, have you ever had to help your teachers with using technology? Okay. Kirk, can you give us an example of how you've helped? And maybe it doesn't have to be Ms. Walker. It could be someone else, because she's sitting right here. Have you ever had to help one of your teachers, Kirk, with technology?
See, for after school, we have a group called Video Editing, and we make movies. And this time, we're making a big movie for the reopening of the rec center. And I had to help my teacher, like, putting words on the screen.
Okay. So did she learn how to do it then from you?
Yes.
Okay. That's good. Was that you, Mrs. Walker?
Yeah.
Mrs. Walker and I know each other, so that's why I can ask her that. Any of the rest of you ever help your teachers with technology? Elvin?
I never helped my teacher, but I helped my parents.
Oh, good. All right. How have you helped your parents with technology?
Well, recently we just got her a smartphone. I taught her how to use it.
Okay, good. Yeah, sometimes we all have to help our parents a little bit with technology. Elena?
When my mom got her first Droid, her first smartphone ever, she had so much trouble. Just, no offense, I'm not trying to put you down, but
Mom is here in the front row, folks.
she had like so much trouble just to get like it collaborated and stuff. I was like, it's just pressing a button.
But were you able to help her, Elena?
Yes.
And Mom, do you feel good now? I feel fulfilled. All right, good. Anybody else ever have to help your teacher or parent with using technology? Anna, talk into the microphone. Can you tell us?
My mom wanted to take a picture of a flower, but she didn't know where the camera was and what it looked like. So I had to point it out for her, and I had to point it out for her like 5 times before she knew where it was.
So do you think you were able to help her, though? She knows how to take the pictures now?
You're also learning diplomacy.
Yes. Obviously. She could be a politician. So one of the things that the bill that the congressman is supporting is about professional development for teachers. Do you think your teachers need more training in how to use technology? Virginia?
Yeah, I think many teachers are still really hesitant to integrate technology and technology activities into the lesson plans, or maybe they aren't sure quite how to approach it. So I really think there needs to be more training for teachers to see where there may be opportunities to allow students to use technology, and where it can serve as a supplement to the curriculum, but at the same time maintain kind of a sense of control and instruction in the classroom. So, yeah.
Okay. Anyone else have a thought about teachers? Kirk?
I think some teachers might still need help with like smart devices, because maybe some teachers are old. Maybe they're used to like, as a person, maybe they're used to using that big thing instead of just the phone.
Right. So they need some help with some of the newer technologies.
Yes.
Okay. Other thoughts about teacher training or professional development? Okay, so I've got another question for you. Can anyone give me an example of how technology was used in either a project or a classroom assignment or something that you did in school that you thought, this was great? I learned more because technology was part of this than anything else. Go ahead, Amy. You need to talk into the microphone though, sweetie, okay? Maybe Kirk can help you there. Oh, that's all right.
We currently had a project on the Roaring Twenties where we had to pick a famous person during that time period, and create a speech about them and research questions. And we currently use the iPads. And with the iPads, I think it was easier to research because each individual student could have searched for their own person. And with the speeches, we were able to record and act like the person that we picked.
Okay, that sounds like a great example. Anybody else have another example? Elvin?
I haven't taken the class yet, but it's for seniors next year. It's called a thesis. It's where you make like a PowerPoint presentation about like 20 slides on public policy, which you believe, and you could take it either way, and you could either do it honors, which is doing it by yourself, or help a teacher, but they can't show you like how to presentate or anything, but you learn off of it by yourself.
Okay, that sounds like a good example too. Okay, Cole.
When we were doing our Black History projects,
And what did you do with the Black History projects?
we got a person, a symbol, a picture. That's all.
Okay, and what technology did you use in that?
I used a computer.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. Kirk, you have another example for us?
Yes, like when we was doing our polar bear paper, we used the iPads to find out facts about how the polar bears are becoming extinct and why.
Okay, so you did research using the iPad.
Yes.
Okay. Elena?
In our physics class, we actually do a scavenger hunt online, and it asks us questions, and we have to find them all online, and it's actually very helpful.
Okay, obviously hard questions if they were physics, right? Okay. So if you saw in some of the data that I presented from the Speak Up surveys, we talked a little bit about what the students told us were obstacles to using technology at school. Have you students had any obstacles or barriers that have prevented you from using technology at school? Elena and then Elvin, go ahead.
The blocking, it blocks a lot of websites that could be very helpful, and our internet is kind of slow. I think we need to update our computers.
Okay.
Something.
All right. Elvin?
I agree.
Both points, check and check. Okay. Other thoughts? Anything else that prevents you from using technology? Do you ever sit there in class and think, gosh, I wish I could use technology more? Go ahead, Amy.
Some of our teachers think that the technology will make us lazy, and so they still make us read.
Oh, okay. Do you think that's true? Do you think the technology could make you lazy?
I think if you use it too much, that it can make you depend on it too much, but if you use the right amount, it can help a lot.
Okay, that's good. All right. Kirk?
Well, in class we read this book called Together, and we had to those words, and we had to find out the definitions. And Ms. Walker, she won't let us use the iPad, so it's kind of hard, cause they words that I never heard before.
Okay. Go ahead, Anna.
In the computer lab, some websites are blocked because teachers think those websites are bad for us.
So we hear that a lot from students about different types of websites that are blocked. So what would improve the use of technology at your school? What do you think your school needs to be able to help you use technology more effectively? What would you suggest? Kirk?
I think our internet needs to be faster and and the iPads can let us access some websites.
Okay. Virginia?
I think it needs to be a lot more accessible and a lot more personalized. Like, for instance, our school computers in the library, there's no way to save your work, really. So I think students should be more accustomed to bringing their own laptop to school.
Okay. Other thoughts? Anybody have some ideas? Elvin?
Maybe like updating your software or like computer.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Madison?
I definitely think that if you have your own device that you can use the internet and things like that for, that you should be able to bring it and use it as opposed to the school-provided devices.
Okay. Congressman, do you have other questions? Otherwise, I have another one for them, but I wanted to give you a shot.
Well, I just wondered to the extent to which the prohibition on bringing your own device is based, what are you told when you want to bring, I assume you said you'd prefer to bring your own device. So the question for me is, why are you not allowed to do that? Because you have unblocked sites on your...
Some teachers allow you to use your own device, and I think other teachers are hesitant because they think you'll be off task, doing your own thing, texting somebody, and...
You'd never do that, right?
No, sir.
So there's some well-founded concern.
A little.
A little. You can be doing that on your own device while you're using a school device, too.
That's right.
Which is probably more likely.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Okay, so I have one more question, but I'm going to open it up to the audience first and see if our audience members has a couple questions. Oh, gosh, the hands are going right up for our esteemed panel here. Yes, go ahead, Maria. Okay, so Maria was asking us if you can think of a teacher who does a really good job of using technology, and maybe it's changed the way he or she has taught compared to maybe some other teachers. Can you think of an example? Go ahead, Amy.
My literature teacher, Miss Garcia, she is really updated with new technology, so when I need help on it, she can help me.
Okay, good. And Virginia?
My world history teacher, we are allowed to take notes on our smartphones, and frequently for activities, he'll say, go to this website and read what they have to say, or browse here, or look up questions on your own, which is really nice.
Okay. Other examples? Anybody? Madison?
My sports marketing teacher, he does this thing, I don't know, it's flipped classroom or something like that, where we go home and on our computer we open up the file and it's him speaking and showing us what to do on the computer software, and then the next day we come to school and we do what he taught us how to do, but we learned it while we were at our house on our couch.
And do you like that type of learning experience?
Yeah, it's a lot more comfortable.
On the couch. Do you wish that all of your teachers did that?
No, I think technology lends itself to certain subjects more than others.
Oh, okay. All right. Interesting perspective. I know there was another question. Yes, sir. So the question is, and keep in mind, this is a college professor who's here with us, is that he was interested if you have any examples of how your teachers have used technology to help you improve your writing skills.
In one of my classes, our teacher made us have an SAT problem of the day, and on the computer, and she'd show it up on the screen through a projector, and it helped us with vocabulary terms, which ultimately made us become better writers.
Okay. Other examples? Anyone have examples? Go ahead, Amy.
My writing teacher, she puts up a journal every day that we're supposed to do, and we're supposed to write neatly because she would check it.
Do you think that's helped you be a better writer? Okay. Anybody else have another example? Go ahead, Kirk.
When we used to do work, my teacher she'll tell us she'll talk a lot. She'll talk a lot about what we gotta do, and it'd be easy for me to write it.
Okay, because you got good preparation from her. Okay, Virginia?
Well, I really think that avid readers are the best writers, and we do a lot of reading online. In my English class, we read a lot of short stories online, and we have the opportunity to practice our vocabulary online as well.
Okay, I think you're right. There is a correlation there. I think that's very good. Another question from the audience? Okay, well then I've got, David, do you have a question? Sure.
Good afternoon, David Owens, Bishop O'Connell High School. I teach senior theology. My question or statement is not so much for the young people as it is the sponsors and the congressmen. As a teacher, my goal is to get a paperless classroom. So I use Edmodo too, Kurt. We use Edmodo, but before that I used Moodle. I know Blackboard, but Blackboard is expensive, especially for some of us lower schools. So we like these programs to be more affordable, and I heard that from them, more accessible, so we can use these tools as not a primary source, but as a source to help us help them get to where they need to be. So that's what I'm interested in, is this software and making it affordable and accessible so that we can do more things with our technology. And by the way, we're a BYOD school, bring your own device. So it's not that we don't have them. When they bring their own, then we supplement it with a couple of iPad cards. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment.
If I just respond to that comment, that's one of the concerns we have, and I think it's a concern that's sort of swirling around the transition to the Common Core standards and common assessments. A lot of people believe that this process is going to be freeing of some of the costs related to textbooks that are outdated, obviously, when they're printed. But we don't know that yet. And whether you're going to get locked into, school districts are very concerned about contracts that they get locked into and long-term cost, and then it may not be the right fit back and forth. We've been following some states or parts of states where professors from 3 or 4 universities, in particular in one state, and several school districts are developing their own open source material assessments and systems so that you can interchange this. Now that's obviously yet another system over the top of these other systems that you may purchase or have purchased, but it's looking very promising, and many of those same people interested in open source are really working to drive down the price of that device. And in one state, they're talking about $79 for a very interactive device that corresponds with their open sourcing, but they're using the history department, the university, the biology department, and back and forth to develop this material for their K through 12 systems. So we're exploring a lot of options because it's a little bit foreboding for districts thinking about these contracts or what the real costs are going to be.
Thank you. So I have one more question for the panel. We are honored to have the Congressman here with us, and he's obviously doing a lot of work on our behalf around education technology and helping schools and districts. So do you have any sort of final word that you want to share with him about why you think technology is important for your learning? Something that he can take back to his office and share with his colleagues? Anyone have a thought? Go ahead, Amy.
I think technology, to learn how to use technology is very important in education because nowadays technology is progressing very rapidly. So before we get out of college, we should learn how to use those technology devices and for our works, for our career.
You're right.
You're absolutely right. Kurt?
I think technology is important because, like, if we just said like, say if we got a dictionary, it'd be hard for us to find a word because there's a lot of words in the dictionary. But if we just said technology, we just had to type that one word, the definition comes up.
Okay.
Could I just ask one? Oh, go ahead.
Sure, go ahead.
Well,
No, go ahead.
okay. Well, I think obviously the job market is increasingly technological, and we need more science and math and technology classes to help us prepare for that. But what I really think is important is more emphasis on hands-on learning and learning through experience and learning through technology. And kind of like what you had said earlier, we need to foster like a true passion and a true motivation and a true understanding of technology, because I think that as schools and education and colleges are becoming more and more competitive, students are starting to value their grades more than the knowledge themselves. And while I think this results in better performance, or at least passing grades on standardized testing scores, I think that students are really losing the crucial ability to be able to problem solve and analyze and think critically and obtain and apply information. So I really think that the best way to do that is to train teachers to make technology an integral part of the lesson plan in a conducive learning environment so that students are really engaged and learning in an interactive way so that they become more resourceful. So, so teachers should be trained to be able to approach technology better, in my opinion.
Good, thank you.
Can I just ask the students, just how many, you have whatever device you have, an iPad, a smartphone, a computer, how many of you learned some part of how to use that device from your friends or a member of your family, brother, sister, what have you? How many of you have helped your friends use the device? How many of you think you've been successful in helping your friends use the device? I think this point is, these students do two things when they're not in school. They create a huge amount of content, God knows, but they also provide services back and forth. And this idea that because this teacher may not be up to speed or is reluctant or what have you, and we all know that happens, or this teacher may be advancing more rapidly than the students in the use of technology, there's a resource here.
That's right.
And very often we overlook this resource of this peer-to-peer system of where they've transmitted a huge amount of information to one another on how to use the technology or various programs or aspects of it. And I don't think it should be overlooked in this process as we try to think how we make this universal. That I've been in many schools. I was in my district where students have said that the class is shut down while something went wrong with the computer system, and the students have said to me, "I can fix that, but they won't let me." And I just think that that's sort of an extreme form. But the fact of the matter is that there's this amazing resource that's getting smarter and accelerating in the use of and the adaptation of technology that shouldn't really be overlooked in our school systems, because as you witnessed here this morning with these students' familiarity and the integrated use in their education. So.
And the insights that they're bringing into this conversation. We talked earlier, Congressman, about in many ways these students, all of our K-12 students are functioning as kind of an advanced team for the rest of us. Yes. They're the tech trendsetters and the pace cars. And so you're absolutely right. Not being able to leverage this asset is really hurting our schools. And so please join me in thanking all of our wonderful students for sharing their insights. And then, of course, thank you, Congressman, not only for your leadership in terms of helping to support the students and helping to support the teachers and the schools and the communities, but also in terms of your commitment to really thinking about the future and the future of education. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here with us as well.
Thanks for your participation. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
You're welcome very much. So just to sort of sum up here for a moment, and then we're going to let you go. Speak Up 2013 is opening up on October 2nd, and so we hope to see you back here next year when we share the data. Many thanks to all of our wonderful sponsors and our partners, and once again to these fabulous students. Thank you so much for coming today.